Hey everyone, I'm making this video today to talk about a bit more about the Hampstead case. I don't usually make videos in such quick succession, but I've just been through my emails today and I'm reading stuff, about this lady, Belinda McKenzie. She's been receiving death threats, and so has Sabine McNeil, and basically she's had a petition taken down, and donations that people have been giving to help Sabine with her case have now been stopped because they're saying, they're masquerading as a charity, when in fact the donations are going to a fugitive wanted for questioning by police, and that's Sabine McNeil, and also the mother and her partner, Mr. Christie, Ella Draper and Mr. Christie. They've all been labelled as fugitives wanting for questioning by police. And this video really, it is to the British establishment, to all the authorities involved in child welfare especially. And, I'm sorry, but this needs facing. You all need to get your heads out of the sand and get with the reality of what is going on. Because, what we've got here is a blatant attack against people who are standing up for children's rights, Now those rights are not a figment of our imagination. Those rights are real, and here they are. I'll leave you the link. Read them, go through them. And, when it comes to the Hampstead case, I draw your attention specifically to Articles 20, to Section 26, 28 and 50. Okay, read them. Read what those sections say. Just those three sections, including Section 50, which is about human rights and people's human rights to free speech, and especially to cry for help for children. Now, Directives 26 and 28, which you can read for yourself here, there's plenty of time in this video for you to pause it and read them. But basically what they're saying is that the children who go to the police and talk about people that have abused them, those children are to be absolutely believed. Legally, they have a legal right to be believed. 100%. Now, in my last video, I explained very clearly about how police are very willing to go and break down doors at 6 o'clock in the morning on a suspicion that somebody's growing a bit of cannabis. So, why weren't police banging on doors first thing of the 70 plus named suspects that the children actually named? Why weren't they there? Why did they wait 8 days? Why did they hand the children over to authorities that included people that the children had named as their abusers? And why didn't they take that into account? That their allegations could have been leaked, and all the offenders, because they were in a prime place, could have heard the allegations straight away and warned everybody. And they've had months and months now to cover up the crimes, if indeed they are guilty. And that is the whole point, is that if there had been a thorough police investigation, then the victims of the crime, which include the parents, would not be forced to have made a public appeal. You know, and they did do everything. They did go to the police, they went through the courts. Even the courts refused. You know, Judge Paedophile herself sat on the court review of the case in January, and she actually refused to allow any review. Even though the children had repeated their allegations while in care. Again, according to sections 26 and 28, even if a child withdraws their initial allegations, those allegations still have to be investigated. Because it is understood that children can be coerced, and that abusers are very nasty people, and they will resort to fear and threats and force people and children to withdraw their allegations, which means children are still at risk. And that's what these directives are written for, to protect children from the risk, not just to arrest criminals and to give treatment to their victims, because those children need help. And when people are saying, no, they haven't been abused, no, we'll just that means that those children are growing up damaged, and they're not receiving the help because the people are saying it didn't happen. And these laws are there for us to be sure whether something did or didn't happen. So basically, the people that have suffered as a result of the negative publicity are actually suffering because the police did not do their job, and the courts did not do their job. They did not uphold the law. And in section 28 explains very, very clearly that anybody who has any suspicions of abuse against children, and don't forget, the crimes here are very serious. We're talking about regular sexual abuse against multiple children by multiple professional people. We're talking about child and baby trafficking. We're talking about child prostitution, making and selling of child pornography, and we're talking about murder of babies. Now, those are very, very serious crimes, and they are a lot more serious than somebody growing a cannabis plant. And I'm sorry if people are finding it so difficult to accept that they have to resort to threatening people that are standing up for children's rights with death threats. You know, and there's this demonisation of the people who are standing up against them. You know, we've been branded as witches and all kinds of things. You know, and there's this MK Ultra 666. You know, they have been standing against the people. So, you know, what is it about? Why is there this persecution of people who are defending children? You know, I do not understand. I'm sorry, you know, to the suspects, because I do not understand why you yourselves as suspects are not outraged yourself that the police didn't uphold the child protection laws and thoroughly investigate straight away, and then there would have been none of this suspicion. And it is the suspicion that is so important, because it's a lawfully valid suspicion. It's upheld by the UN, and we can't forget the UN report, and I spoke about it in my previous video. They outline all the crimes described by the children. They claim, the UN say specifically, that those crimes are happening in London, and hundreds of babies and children are being ritually sacrificed, murdered in London every year. That's what the UN said. Now, so when two children report that, that's a valid legal suspicion, and it needed to be immediately investigated. And I'm sorry, suspects, children do say things, Okay, but according to the law, they do have to be actually believed and given the full weight of law to protect them. Because if those children are telling the truth, that means how many children are at risk from 70 plus professional people, and many of whom are in positions of public authority. It's very serious, and I'm sure even you as innocent suspects, if indeed that is what you are, surely you can appreciate that we need to be sure. We need to be sure. And we cannot allow this, this ridiculous judgment given by this judge, which is illegal. It's illegal. It was secret. The evidence was in secret. The mother and her partner and the McKenzie friend didn't even get to see the evidence. They didn't even know. Nobody knows what the evidence is to prove these people innocent. And it is outrageous that only one person out of the 70 suspects was questioned, and that was their father. And he didn't even have his laptop looked at. And the Hampstead research have actually found, evidence, solid evidence connecting the father to a paedophile site. So they claim. Now, this has been actually given to the police in a police crime report that has been submitted to Scotland Yard. But is anything actually going to be done about it? Is anything going to be done about it? When we look at this article, The Telegraph, written by Christopher Booker, the family justice system is callous, corrupt and staggeringly expensive. And read through the article. I will leave you the link. As he says, the system is not working. He says, from the dozens of cases I've been following where children have been seized from their parents for no good reason, I had little sense that those responsible for this review have really begun to grasp at just how bad the situation has become. And that goes for the whole of Britain. We have yet to grasp how bad the situation has become, and it has become so bad that this lady, and she is a true lady. These are real ladies, what I would call real ladies of humanity, that stand up and speak out for the vulnerable and the weak and the oppressed. And children. Sabina's devoted her life as a McKenzie friend to standing up for children's rights and standing up against the illegalities and the cruelty of Britain's family court system, which is an outrage. It's an outrage. And the McKenzie friends, this is what they do. They're about human rights. They're not about persecuting people. Sabine did not go out to persecute the father and the suspects. That was not the reason that they made, that they decided to go public. And actually, it would have been against the law not for them not to turn to the last remaining competent authority, which is the public. It would have been against the law for them to do that, for them not to go public. That is what the child protection laws say, and the child protection laws fully support their human rights to speak out. And the suspects, really, your position needs to be with the McKenzie friends and saying, yes, the child protection laws should have been honoured. And then we wouldn't have gone through there wouldn't have been any suspicion. Because, you know, the allegations did include very detailed facts, personal facts that could have been proven true or false instantly. And there would have been none of this. But now we're in this situation where the family court, where the court system, I mean, and this was a High Court judgment, okay, is now in the position of basically tit for tat. Oh right, well you've publicised us and said all these things about us, so now we're going to you know, publish this about you, and you're going to get death threats. That is not what a civilised legal system is about. And I'm sorry, it's a sham. It's throw the dog a bone culture, isn't it? And obviously the British public, we're just dogs, aren't we? That really couldn't give a shit about anything, and not even our children. And that's what this is about. It is about police banging on doors the minute a child reports abuse. It's about prompt investigations, because otherwise there will continue to be the thousands of babies and children trafficked into London every year, as stated as a fact by the UN. By the UN Child Protection Committee. You know, and they don't make their conclusions and write their reports on thin air. They've studied, they've looked, they've researched. And we really, really do need to wake up, you know. We just need to wake up. And we need to get behind the McKenzie Crusade. We need to support it. It's all very good, you know. There's lots of people always moaning about it, and and they do share posts on Facebook and blah blah blah. But that's the end of it. Where are you when it comes to this? The actions, the police actions. How many of you are writing to the police and saying, "There's this crime report"? Are you contacting Scotland Yard and saying, "Look, we know this crime report has been submitted. We are very concerned. We want to know what you're doing about it, because our suspicions are lawfully valid and they need investigation." In the same way you would investigate suspicion of somebody growing a marijuana plant. Is that too much to ask for our children? And it has to end, you know. I'm sorry, British authorities, you are going to fall. And I tell you now, you will fall. Unless you pick yourselves up right now and stand by the law and help our children. And remove this ridiculous custodial threats against Sabine. And the mother and her partner. Let us investigate this case openly now, because it is open. There can be no room now more for secrecy. That has to end. We know the secrecy is protecting child abusers. That's in the crime report. That is now a suspicion, and it has to end. So we want no more secrecy around this case. We now need all the people, the suspects, to be investigated. And we need to know, if those children are to be returned to their father, we need to know that he is innocent. Because that is what the law states. It's not a personal opinion. It's not a judgment. It is the law. And that is why the law is there. So people do not have to resort to personal opinions and judgments based on information that they've heard. We arrive at an understanding about a situation or an allegation because it's been investigated, thoroughly investigated, and we know that those people are innocent. And in fact, the suspects themselves deserve that. So, you know, this works both ways. What I'm saying today, it works both ways. It's for the suspect's interest and for the interest of the children. And like I say, you know, you will fall. The law is there. And you cannot create a court system that denies people's human rights and makes them a criminal for sharing concerns about children who are at risk of abusive authorities, the very authorities that are controlling the family courts, police and child welfare systems. And that is outrageous. And then to even demonise them because they're trying to raise money for their campaigns. Sabine has been forced to leave her life in Britain. From 1985, the flat that she's lived in, she's had to leave it, and everything. She is living like a fugitive because she tried to help British children and she stood up for their rights. And how dare anybody threaten these people with death for that? You know, it is unfortunate that the suspects have been targeted, which was bound to happen. But, as I say, that is not the fault of Sabine. That is the fault of a legal system that is not working. And that's why we have a legal system, because we don't want mob rule, mob justice. We don't want it, we don't need it. The children don't need it. It solves nothing. That's why we have a law, a legal system. That's why we're a civilised society, supposedly. So we have to end all this stuff about, oh, the Hampstead, this and that. You know, oh, the children are lying. It doesn't matter whether they're lying, they're telling the truth. That is not what the point is. The point is they have legal rights and those rights were ignored. And when it comes that ignoring children's rights mean that thousands of children are left at risk, and evil, sadistic, obviously sick minds are left in positions of power and authority over children, then, you know, we are crazy not to get wound up about that and say, excuse me, at what point here does the law work? So, you know, if you really do care about your children or any children in this world, please get behind the actions. Support. Write. Get in touch. Send people actual information. You know, it's all here. I'll leave you the links here. We have to do something about this, because we cannot allow this persecution in favour of protecting people that abuse children. You know, and if that is going to be the humanity on this planet, if that's what humanity on this planet is going to be, I do not want to live here, right? I don't want to live here anymore. Because it is sick beyond belief. It really is. It's sick beyond belief. You know, and all the links are here. All the links. So I ask you, please give us your support and help us in any way that you can. And, well, you're helping the children. That's all I can say. Thank you.